Hare Krishna. Let us understand Bhagavad Gita as it is, written by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters. So let us understand these chapters section by section. Before we begin the discussion, let us offer our prayers to our spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada and Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we will be understanding the first section of chapter 9 of Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 9 is entitled The Most Confidential Knowledge. Section 1 is from Shloka number 1 to Shloka number 10. This section is entitled The Whole Cosmic Order is Under Lord Krishna. So let us understand this section. The first chapter of Bhagavad Gita is more or less an introduction to the entire subject matter. The second chapter describes the difference between the body and the soul. This subject is considered to be confidential knowledge. More or less in this material world, nowadays people deal with external knowledge. There are departments of politics, departments of engineering, departments of medical science, sociology, history, geography. In this way, there are different departments of knowledge, but we rarely find department of knowledge which discusses about the difference between the body and soul. The subject matter of soul is very, very confidential. It has to be understood from the Supreme Authority Krishna himself and from his disciplic succession through the Vedic scriptures. Vedic scriptures is given by the Lord himself in the incarnation as Vyasadeva. He has recorded everything. So this subject is very rare and it is confidential. Chapter 7 and 8 deal with devotional service. They are considered to be more confidential knowledge. And chapter 9 is entitled here as the most confidential knowledge because it deals with pure unalloyed devotional service. The activities of the soul is considered to be the most confidential knowledge, which Lord Krishna will be describing in this chapter. So let us understand this chapter. In this first section, Krishna describes how the whole cosmic manifestation rests under him. So let us understand this topic. Lord Krishna says, Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Idam tute guhyatamam pravakshyamyanasuyave Jnana Vijnana Sahitam Yajñatva Mokshase Shubhat. The Supreme Lord said, My dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most secret wisdom, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. So Lord Krishna is telling, now you hear from me this most confidential knowledge. Hearing from Krishna, hearing the topics about Krishna from devotees are very, very potent. Because by hearing about Krishna or hearing directly from Krishna, one understands the Supreme Lord Krishna himself. Because understanding Krishna and his activities and his glories is not at all easy. It is all very, very confidential subject and it can be understood only in the association of pure devotees. When we hear about Krishna in the association of pure devotees, then one can understand Krishna's potencies, one can understand Krishna's glories, and one can realize these things. So it is important to hear from Krishna, and Krishna is telling that, now I shall describe to you this knowledge, knowing which you shall be free from all material miseries. So idam jnanam refers to pure devotional service, because ultimately the perfection of knowledge is to perform devotion to Krishna. So Prahlad Maharaj has described 9 different ways of pure devotional service: hearing about Krishna, glorifying Krishna, then remembering Krishna, worshipping Krishna, serving the lotus feet of Krishna, serving Krishna as a servant, serving Krishna as a friend, offering everything to Krishna. So these are the 9 different ways one can perform devotional service. So Krishna is going to describe these topics in this particular chapter, and he tells Arjuna, you are qualified to understand this subject because you are Anasuyave. Anasuyave means Arjuna, he is non-envious of Krishna. In this entire creation, in this entire existence, Krishna is a special person. He is supreme person. Everyone else are Krishna's servants. So Arjuna is not envious of Krishna's supreme position. Arjuna loves Krishna as his friend, and he is a devotee of Krishna. Therefore, he is qualified to understand Krishna and his glories. So Krishna is also pleased to reveal this confidential knowledge to Arjuna. So if we have to understand Bhagavad Gita, the true purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to make everyone surrender to Krishna as his servant and serve him. This is the purpose of the Bhagavad Gita. After hearing Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna agreed to fight because Krishna wanted the fight. So Arjuna, in the beginning, he was not willing to fight. So when Arjuna understood that Krishna is the Supreme Lord and he is his servant, every living being is servant of Krishna, and the only duty of the living beings is to carry out the orders of Krishna with love and devotion, Arjuna very vigorously fought. So if we have to understand Bhagavad Gita as Krishna is describing, we have to have qualification like Arjuna. We have to agree whatever Krishna has told as truth, and we have to surrender to Krishna and serve Krishna. There are many philosophers, many commentators on Bhagavad Gita who deviate from this central point of Bhagavad Gita. So therefore, their commentaries are all useless and unauthorized. Only pure devotees give the correct meaning to the verses of Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna is telling Arjuna that you are qualified to understand this most confidential knowledge. So now you hear this confidential subject. So Krishna says further, Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam Susukham Kartum Avyayam. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and it is joyfully performed. So Krishna is describing various qualities of this king of education, the most confidential knowledge. So Krishna is telling, this is Raja Vidya, this is the king of all knowledge. There are many different departments of knowledge, and the perfection of all knowledge is to understand one's own self as spirit, soul, and the most confidential part of knowledge is to understand that we are all parts of the Supreme Lord Krishna, and our duty is to love Krishna and serve Krishna. This is the most confidential subject, which is very, very rarely understood by people who are in search of knowledge. So this is the perfection of knowledge, because people are involved in varieties of activities, and mostly people perform various varieties of sinful activities. Because of sinful activities we get reactions, and because of those reactions to sin we suffer in this material world. But devotional activities to Krishna are so potent that by performing devotional activities, the reactions of sin becomes nullified and one becomes free from all miseries. Therefore, it is called Pavitram. And it is also called Uttamam because it enlightens one, it uplifts one from this material existence, which is also called darkness, to the transcendental spiritual light. It enlightens one about his true existence as part of the Supreme Lord and about his connection with the Supreme Lord. Therefore, it is called Uttamam. And then it is Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam. One can realize it directly when we engage in devotional service to Krishna. We can directly experience the connection with the Supreme Lord and transcendental pleasure that we get by serving Krishna. And then it is Susukham Kartum Avyayam. From beginning, one can experience the transcendental pleasure of serving Krishna. So it is joyfully performed. One can hear Krishna's bhajans, kirtans. One can see the beautiful form of Lord Krishna decorated very nicely in the temples. One can taste very palatable dishes which are offered to Krishna. In that way, we can joyfully perform devotion to Krishna, and even the poorest man can perform devotion to Krishna. We can offer with love and devotion one fruit, one flower, one leaf, or little water. Krishna will happily accept it. So the most important thing is our love and devotion. So in this way, devotional service to Krishna is the king of all knowledge, and it is joyfully performed. It purifies one, it gives pleasure to the performer. So nice it is to perform devotion to Krishna. So Krishna will be describing these things in this chapter. So Krishna is telling, Ashwadhadhana Purusha Dharmasyasya Parantapa Aprapya Mam Nivartante Mrityu Samsara Vartmani. Those who are not faithful on the path of devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of foes, but return to birth and death in this material world. In order to understand Krishna and serve Krishna, first of all we should have faith. Faith means we just have to believe that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and by surrendering to Him, by serving Him, one achieves all perfection. This strong belief is called faith, and one can develop this faith by chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra and hearing about Krishna from pure devotees. This faith develops gradually from very tender faith to firm faith. So the devotees are categorized according to their faith as first class devotee, second class devotee, and third class devotee. Kanishta Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. Uttama Adhikari is a first class devotee who has firm faith in Krishna. He has thorough knowledge about scriptures, and he, by performing devotional service, he will very easily achieve perfection in his devotional service. Madhyama Adhikari is a second class devotee who has firm faith in Krishna. Even he doesn't fall down from devotion, even though he may not be very expert in scriptural knowledge. Third class devotee is a devotee who has faith in the deities. He respects the deities, worships the deities of Krishna, but he doesn't know how to recognize different categories of people. He doesn't know how to behave with devotees, with non-devotees, and with innocent people. And he may get deviated, he may fall down from his devotion. So, one can develop faith when he associates with pure devotees of Krishna and hears about Krishna regularly and chants the holy names of Krishna, especially the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. By regularly chanting and hearing this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, one develops his faith and devotion to Lord Krishna. Without faith, one cannot perform devotion to Krishna. So Krishna is telling that those who are faithless, they will return again into this material world, which is which traps him into the cycle of birth and death. So without faith, one cannot achieve liberation. We should have faith in the scriptures. We should have faith in the Supreme Lord Krishna. We should not have blind faith. We should have faith based on the authoritative knowledge given in the scriptures, explained by bona fide spiritual masters. Only then that subject is called authorized. We should not believe anything and everything by explained by some unauthorized people. Nowadays, many people give their own commentaries on scriptures, on Bhagavad Gita in their own mentally concocted ways. We should not believe those things. We should take knowledge from authorized people who are coming in the line of disciplic succession from Krishna. Then we get true knowledge, and once we get connection with a bona fide spiritual master, we should have full faith in him. We should surrender to him and learn from him how to progress in spiritual life. So further Krishna describes, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagad avyaktamurtina matsthani sarva bhutani nachaham teshvavasthitah. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. This whole cosmic order is nothing but Krishna's energy. Everything is Krishna's energy, as we have understood in the 7th and 8th chapter. There are Krishna's different energies, the inferior energy, which is material energy, and the superior energy, the living beings. So this material universe is nothing but a combination of these two energies. And Krishna, his potencies are spread everywhere. Therefore Krishna is telling, Maya tatam idam sarvam jagad avyakta murtina. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. Even though Krishna is there in the spiritual world, personally he is engaged in his spiritual activities, his energies are working everywhere. Just like the king, his role is existing everywhere in the kingdom. In every department of the kingdom, it is the king who has made the rules and regulations, and his presence is felt in every department by the rules he has made. Even though the king may not be personally present in each and every department, one feels the presence of the king by the rules and regulations he has made, and everyone abides by it. In the same way, this whole cosmic order is functioning so nicely because the Lord has willed it, he has desired it, and his energies are carrying out everything perfectly. So in that way, Krishna's potencies are everywhere. Krishna is spread everywhere. Krishna cannot be seen directly through our gross material senses because Krishna is completely spiritual. We can perceive Krishna only by our spiritual senses. Now our senses are all sleeping. Once by performing devotional service, when we awaken our spiritual senses, we can perceive Krishna, we can see Krishna, we can talk with Krishna. Till then, through the blunt material senses, we cannot see Krishna. So further, Krishna says, Nacha matstani bhutani pashyame yogamaishwaram bhuta bharnacha bhutastho mamatma bhuta bhavana. And yet everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulence. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, still myself is the very source of creation. So Krishna is telling that he is the source of everything and everything is resting in him, and then he is the maintainer of all living beings. Although he is doing all these things by his will, everything is not resting on him physically. It is all carried out by his material energies. So in that way, Krishna is maintaining everything, and just by will of Krishna, everything is manifested. When Krishna understands that the living beings who are his parts wants to enjoy independently, he wills that let there be facilities given to those living beings who want to enjoy independently, and immediately the energies carry out and this whole cosmic creation comes into existence. So in this way, the Lord provides facilities for all living beings to enjoy according to their desires. So further, Krishna, he gives an example. Yathakasha sthito nityam vayu sarvatra go mahan tatha sarvani bhutani matstani tyupadharaya. As the mighty wind blowing everywhere always rests in ethereal space, know that in the same manner all beings rest in me. So Krishna is giving an example. The wind blows in different directions, in different speeds, but still it rests in the sky. It is not beyond the space, it doesn't go beyond the sky. It is always within the sky. In the same way, different living beings, they wander in this whole material creation from middle planetary system to lower planetary system, or to higher planetary system, and they also migrate from one species to another. So whatever may be happening, it all rests on Krishna's energy, Krishna's material energy, and in this way, they are within the energy of Krishna. So further Krishna says, Sarva bhutani kaunteya prakritim yanti mamikam kalpakshaye punastani kalpadau visrajamyaham. O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, every material manifestation enters into my nature, and at the beginning of another millennium, by my potency, I again create. So, Lord Brahma, who is the first living being in this material universe, he lives for 100 years. That is, Brahma's one day or 12 hours is nothing but 4,300,000,000 years. That is 12 hours of Brahma. So, that same duration is Brahma's night. That is nothing but totally the 24 hours of Brahma is 8,600,000,000 years. So, that is 24 hours, one day of Brahma. That if we multiply into 30, that is 1 month of Brahma. And if we multiply that into 12, that is 1 year of Lord Brahma. When we multiply that into 100, that is the complete 100 years of Lord Brahma. Once Brahma dies, the entire material manifestation enters into the transcendental body of the Lord, and whichever state the different living beings were existing, they will immediately enter into the body, and again during the next creation, they will all manifest in the same state in which they were existing in the previous creation. So, all the living beings with the different species of living beings in different states of existence are manifest simultaneously with the material creation. It's not that there was a gradual evolution of living beings. As the modern science describes, there was some single cellular organisms, and gradually there were multiple multicellular organisms, and in this way gradually different species developed. This is our incorrect understanding about different varieties of species. How the species came into existence? They were all simultaneously manifested at the beginning of creation by the will of the Lord. In whichever state they were existing in the past creation, exactly in that same state they're manifest again, because that is their desire. They want to enjoy in that way. The Lord gives them facilities immediately when the creation begins, and the living beings, they engage in their material activities. Further, Krishna says, Prakritim swam avashtabhya visrajami punah punah bhutagramam imam kritsnam avasham prakriter vashat. The whole cosmic order is under me. By my will it is manifested again and again, and by my will it is annihilated at the end. So, one of the energies of Krishna is this material energy. He lets loose this material energy in the form of Mahatattva, and he enters this Mahatattva as Karanodakashai Vishnu or Mahavishnu, and lies in the Karana Jala, in the causal ocean, in his transcendental sleep, Yoga Nidra, and he exhales innumerable universes, and he enters into each and every universe as Garbhodakashai Vishnu, and then he creates from the navel his lotus sprouts, and the first living being of each and every universe is born as Lord Brahma. Within the stem of that lotus, 14 planetary systems are created, and different varieties of bodies are provided to the living beings who wanted to enjoy in different ways. And the Lord enters into each and every heart of the living being as Kshirodakashai Vishnu, Paramatma, and he enters into each and every atom. In this way, the Lord is involved in this material creation in the incarnation of these three Purusha avatars. The original Supreme Lord Krishna himself is not directly involved in this material creation. but he expands himself as Purusha avatars, and he creates, maintains and annihilates the whole material creation. So in that way, the Lord takes care of the affairs of this material world through his material energy. So further Krishna says, Nachamam tani karmani nibadhanti dhananjaya udasina vadasinam asaktam teshu karmasu. O Dhananjaya, all this work cannot bind me. I am ever detached, seated as though neutral. Even though the Lord is involved in this material creation, indirectly, because without the will of the Lord nothing can happen in this world. Not even a single blade can move without the will of the Lord. So this whole creation comes into existence because the Lord glances over the material energy. Without the glance of the material energy, nothing can happen. And the different living beings are in different states of existences, in different varieties of species. Some are suffering, some are enjoying the material pleasures in that way. So many things are happening in this material world, but the Lord is not involved in those activities. He is not responsible for various pains and pleasures of those living beings. Just like a high court judge, he gives different judgments in different cases. In some case, he punishes the criminals very severely. In some cases, he awards some compensation to some person. So we can see the judge himself is giving different judgments in so varieties of cases throughout the day, but he himself is aloof from the pains and pleasures one receives from his judgments. In the same way, the Lord, even though he, without his will, without his plans, nothing happens in this world, but he himself is not involved in the pains and pleasures of the living beings who are involved in these material activities within this material creation. So further Krishna says, Maya adhyakshena prakritihi suyate sacharacharam hetunanena kaunteya jagad viparivartate. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and unmoving beings. By its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. So very clearly here Krishna is telling, Maya adhyakshena prakriti suyate sa chara acharam. Material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and non-moving living beings. So material nature is working, but the direction is Krishna's direction. Krishna is not directly involved in the activities of this world, but he is remotely directing. He has directed everything perfectly. And because of his direction, winds are blowing, sun is rising in time, seasons are changing in time. So in that way, the material laws are perfectly acting because the Lord has given the directions. And he is not directly involved. Just like a flower produces the fragrance, and a person who comes near the flower is having the power of smelling. So because of the power of his smelling, he gets the fragrance of the flower, and he can smell that fragrance. Even though he smells the fragrance, the flower is different and the power of smelling is different. They are disconnected. In the same way, the Lord glances, he wills that this creation happens for providing facilities for the living beings to enjoy or suffer in their own ways. But he is not directly involved in the pains and pleasures. But without his direction, nothing happens. Without his direction, material nature cannot work. Without his direction, material nature cannot do anything. Just like modern scientists, they believe that everything happened. The whole origin of life began from matter is completely wrong, because matter is dead, inferior energy, it cannot do anything. Unless there is a spiritual touch, the power of glance of Krishna is needed. Only then matter acts. Without Krishna's glance, nothing can happen. So further, what Krishna will describe, we will understand in the next section. Hare Krishna.